Hello.
Hi.
Hello.
We should probably knock down the third, fourth, fifth wall. I'm not sure which wall it is now that you have to knock down. But we're recording on a new software today. So we have had a little bit of a hiccup at the beginning where no one could hear me, and then there was some echoing. But hopefully, fingers crossed, everything is looking pretty good now. Dogs barking.
Yeah.
And they're like, woohoo!
Mind you, it would be a dog podcast without dogs barking, would it?
Exactly.
So, someone's
Exactly.
pizza's just been delivered, probably, hasn't it? So, welcome to Barks on the Bookshelf, Debby Lucken. We're very pleased to have you.
Hi, Debbie.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
It's been
And
a long
you're
time
in-
coming.
It has been a long time coming, hasn't it? Yeah. Well, yeah. We
It has, yeah. Well, we've seen each other last time at a craft, so yeah, and in passing as well because we were all so busy,
I
so
know.
we didn't have time to have a proper chat this time.
I think
You're-
I came past, well, me and Corinne both came past
Yeah.
several times every day, and we're like, oh, she looks busy, we'll catch her next time, and that happened for 4 days running. So
It was quite crazy, but the same thing happened to me coming over, and literally I was like waving as you were chatting to me. So yeah, it's good though. It's good to be busy, but at the same time, it would have been nice to have a bit of time to catch up. Hopefully,
we'll try again next year.
Yeah.
Crufts is an absolute whirlwind for us at Pact, and I know that that's not the only kind of big event that you do with CAD, is it? So how many do you do a year?
Well, every year has been different, to be honest, 'cause I'm kind of testing them out, if you know what I mean. And also depends, what I can do time-wise as well, because obviously there is my daughter and the family and everything and work, so I always want to make sure that I'm still around. But I am always looking forward to the PACT conference, so that's one in my calendar every year now. It's been so good. Your guests are always awesome, and the people visiting as well. The people coming to the conference are just so lovely. It's brilliant. So that's one that I'm keeping in my diary every year now. And I've done Edition Dogs as well for the second time, which has been lovely. Bit tricky to get to Coventry and all that, but hopefully that will come up again. There is going to be someone covering for me on the Pet Professional Guild this year. So it depends, but it's nice to know that the Kids Around Dogs professionals can also cover where I can get to or when I can get to. So it's fantastic to have that network as well.
It's nice. We're honoured that you've picked R1 to attend in person and send
I
someone
love it.
else.
I love to see you guys. It's a beautiful location as well. Winchester University is beautiful. Not too far from me either, so it's fantastic. I'm really looking forward to it. Gosh, and one particular guest is they're all awesome, but I'm looking forward to Linda this year. So yeah, looking forward to that.
Yeah, it's not long to go now.
No, not long to start panicking a bit. Oh,
Don't worry, we started panicking about 6 months ago. It's fine.
I'm sure you have, actually, yeah. I don't envy you. It comes up beautiful and everything, but I'm sure the stress you guys put yourself through it's not easy. But
Let's not.
Yeah, we're fine. We're fine.
yeah, we're fine.
We're just crying in the toilet for hours before, during, and after. No, we're not.
Was that why it was always busy last year?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's us.
Get out!
I'm glad
don't even have-
doesn't come across as stressful.
No,
but
it looked good. It looked stress-free, but I'm sure obviously it's not easy to organize those things. So well done to you guys.
Slight
What's a
joy.
monster? What's this monster doing here? Why are you here? Honestly, this is what happens when you ask your husband to keep the dogs busy.
Yeah, and there is the album coming
There's
back.
Silent J.
There he is, panicking. Get out!
Right, you give us a seamless transition there, Nat, talking about families and things like that. So we were absolutely delighted to find out that friend Debbie had released a book called It Started With a Sit. I did have a copy of it, but it seems that Corin might have actually stole my copy of it. That was sat by my chair here.
Oh, there it is.
There it is.
There it is. So I've spent the last week, I think, reading it. I think Corin sent you a photo of me with Penny on my lap.
Yes. I'm going to use it on Facebook soon.
So I think what would be a nice place to start. I've got loads of questions and things to talk about the book. I really, really, really enjoyed the book. It's wonderful.
Cool.
And I think a nice place to start would be, why write a book? Why write a book as well? I think I know the answer to this already, but there are other books around similar topics that are out there. This one, I think, has got something different about it, which I really, really liked. But what led you to write the book? What made you want to jump in? And it's not easy, is it?
It's not easy, but I tell you, it goes back to when I was quite young, because I've always wanted to write a book. It was one of those things. I think a lot of people say, I wish I'd written a book, or I would like to write a book. And gosh, I really wanted to. And I did write back then some fictional books or short story and stuff. But now with working with dogs, specializing with children, realizing as well how much is out there, but also how much is not out there, if you know what I mean. So I wanted something where people could relate to, and they could see, oh, her life is my life, or her problems are my problems, and hopefully also offer solutions from a personal point of view, but also a professional point of view. That was what I wanted to see out there. I would have wanted to see it when I was going through pregnancy, and when Molly was born and everything, and I couldn't find it, or I couldn't find what I wanted to. And so that's a bit the reason the book. And also some colleagues have encouraged me, you should write a book, and the more you hear it, the more you go, maybe I should write a book. And so finally there is.
And how long was the process?
In my mind, a long time. Yes, in thinking I should write a book. The process, all in all, I think was about a year of between writing, rewriting it, editing it, and a lot of editing, and then more editing, and turns out that you still edit it. For the cover as well, there have been some comedy moments where first I hired someone on kind of like a Craigslist kind of thing, and so I've had someone, and it was hilarious, because I explained what I wanted, and I sent also some photos of Molly, my daughter, because I wanted Molly in the cover, and so I explained exactly, that it's called like this, and it's for dogs, and she sent me back a photo of Molly running, and there is a cat sitting there.
Is it like when AI goes wrong?
That was a person, like, what is this? There has been a few conversations between me and this lovely person, where at the end, after a few massive failure, another one was a dog, a random dog in one of those doggy houses outside, and so there was the doggy house, clearly like a photoshopped or whatever, with massive dog inside. What is this? So
I think
so wrong. So
I need to see these.
I promise I'll dig them up. And then my husband was like, I don't know, have a little look on AI, have a little laugh with that. So I did, and I posted about this actually on social media, because it was just so funny. There was at one point the image of a woman with a baby, and the baby had the face of the dog. What?
This reminds me of when if you've got any sort of like record collectors, like vinyl collectors that they're always after the sort of albums that have got misprints on the covers or something like that. I reckon you should have got a couple of those printed, and they probably would have been worth a bit of money.
Limited edition.
Yeah.
And then in the end, funny enough, Gary, my husband, is an illustrator, though he creates video games normally. But I went, why don't you? Why did you, man I married, do something about this? And so he did. So at the end, the cover that you see is his work. I started it a bit going, oh, maybe we could do this, and then he made it pretty, and that was that was what came up in the end. I should have just asked him directly.
The very definition of keeping it in house. Eh?
Yeah, exactly.
So did Gary design your logo as well?
He did, yes, he did.
Oh,
yeah,
wow.
Yeah.
It's a full family affair.
It is, and actually the name Kids Around Dogs comes from his idea as well, because I was telling him, oh, I want so many children dogs, and he went, well, what about Kids Around Dogs? Because it sounds that you could also kind of use the around after dog as well. It becomes like a full circle in the end. It becomes like Kids Around Dogs around Kids Around Dogs. That was the original idea, and then we just kept it to Kids Around Dogs. But so he's very creative, and so I'm very grateful for that. Yeah.
Are you paying him?
Yeah.
I'm not paying him, but he's been making dinner a lot lately. So again, all these compliments.
You have to put a chef through on your books, Debbie.
Yeah. He's a really good cook,
So one of the things about the book then, I mean, that I absolutely adored about it, again, we always find these interviews quite difficult because there's lots of things we want to talk about the book, but also we don't want to give too many spoilers away because we want all of our listeners to go out and buy the book, of course. But one of the things that really struck me as soon as I started reading it was, oh, okay, this isn't your average dog book. This is like Debbie's life story up to a certain point. And I think you allude to the fact that there might be others in the pipeline coming down the pipeline. And I was like, okay, this is going to be quite interesting because normally the sort of books about children and dogs interacting are very textbooky is not the right word, is it? But they're very sort of like bullet pointy, like this practical, which this has, by the way, in your little pink sections that are throughout the book, which are wonderful.
I like the pink sections. They were like a bit of me. They were.
Yeah, you see, and that's the kind of point I'm getting to, is because there's something for everyone there, because I've read a lot of books, let's call them pink section books. And I'm kind of the other way now, like, because I've read so many of those sorts of books, and they're wonderful, don't get me wrong. I've read many, many wonderful ones. I'm a bit more like the other side of, like, I want to hear, like, a bit more about the person. So that's something that I really, really enjoyed about your book, because I think there's a way of educating through stories that we don't get often in the dog world. I remember I harp on about this a lot, but one of my favourite books I ever read for Bucks from the bookshelf was... I think it's called The Dog Knows, like K-N-O-W-S. No, it's Cat Warren's book.
Cat Warren.
Oh, yeah,
They're both very similar covers, very similar titles as well.
We read them very relatively close together as well, I think.
In fairness, Sindor's is a nice example of that as well. It's kind of similar kind of biography about your life, but also educating throughout the stories. So one of the things that first struck me about it was we all have these origin stories, and I loved the little story about you and Theo as you were growing up. So you grew up in Switzerland.
Yes, I'm Swiss, yeah.
But somewhere where they speak Italian, which is just all too confusing for me.
Switzerland is effectively divided in 3 main languages. There is a 4th one that is very, very small, Romansh, and I'm not even sure they even speak it there anymore, but it's really, really small. And the biggest one is the German part, which is the north generally, and then you have the French a bit towards the kind of west side things, and then you have the Italian part. It is small but pretty, and that's where I'm from, the Italian-Swiss part the Italian part of Switzerland. So
you grow up wanting a dog?
Yes.
Not being able to have one?
Yeah. And I really think that's why I feel so strongly about what he worked with kids, because I was desperate for a dog, really desperate for a dog. I also, if you read my diaries back then, growing up, there were, talks of dogs quite often. At one point, there was talk of cats as well. Some cats needed rescue, and I'm really desperate to rescue a cat. And it was always no for my parents. I get it, of course. As an adult now, I think yes, they did the responsible thing of not just indulging your kid on adopting a dog, because it's such a big responsibilities. And my parents, when we could, were going on holiday. It was always like winter and summer holidays were always there, and just being out. They're very social people, my parents, so they always had either guests at their home or going out. So having a dog would have been really difficult with the kind of lifestyle they had. So I get it, and I appreciate it as an adult. But as a kid, I really, really didn't. I wanted the dog. My mum obviously knew. And when then I was a teenager, and summers also in Switzerland really long. You have at least 8 weeks holidays. So my mum had this friend who had a black lab called Theo. And so during the summer they went, oh, do you want to walk to? I'm like, yeah, bring it. That was like the dream. And I talk about him in the book because it was, it was probably my first real dog friend, but also it felt like I had a dog, although I didn't, we'd go and pick him up and take him for a walk. So it wasn't quite the same. But I would, we would walk around while I was doing most of the walk, because Theo was quite, it was, let's say, they were very generous with his food. And, it was, it was a jobby big thing. And also very, very hot in Switzerland. We get really, really hot summers. So we would go out, and I was doing most of the walking, and he would walk a little bit, and then he would just plonk himself down there, and that was that for the walk. But I spent a lot of time with him, just telling him things, or just saying nothing, just having a friend with me. And so I have really fond memories of him, and he's no longer with us, also because it was 30 years ago, so it would have been a really, really strong dog in that respect. But he remembered me as well when the summer was over, and I obviously had to go back to school, so no more walks with him. I would see him every now and then, and he would spot me, and he would run to me. Also because by the end of the summer, he could run. All those walks, I forced him to come there. So I don't know, the relationship I built with him, still remember it today, 30 years on. I still remember just how much he gave me, and how important that time was. So yeah, he had to be in the book. He just had to.
It's always, you could always look back on those relationships. Sorry, Corinne, I was jumping in there.
Oh, that's all right. I was only going to say that, like Steve said, you have shared so much of yourself in this book, and I think it's really brave. I don't know if I hope you find that as a compliment, because I do think some of the journey and some of the things you shared are quite personal, and I think that it was really brave to share your story.
Thank you. It's I'm not gonna lie, there are some bits in the book where I cried writing it, and a lot of it I actually wrote it in like various coffee shops here in Poole, in Dorset, where I live. Simply because working from typing from home, I start typing, and then Gary works from home, he works upstairs, so he would come out and tell me something about what I'm like, I need to write something quite emotional. So you telling me about video game or design doesn't help.
Yeah. I'm trying to get in the zone here, Gary.
Get back in the kitchen, Gary.
Make me a katsu curry. So that wasn't working. Or again, you're typing in, suddenly the postman comes, and then, or you look around and you go, oh, I really need to vacuum. So you get up and start vacuuming. No, this is not happening. This is not working. And so I would, I typed a lot from different coffee shops. And every time that I had quite a big one, maybe I had a few tears, I'd be like, right, I'm not coming back here for at least a week. I'll go to another one. Where can I park easily? Where can Winnie come? Because Winnie
all the staff are like, oh, it's that lady that cries into her keyboard
there is
again.
the lunatic lady. back.
So
But I
fast
wanted
forwarding.
that,
Oh, go
not
on.
because I didn't want to cry in public, but I wanted to, for the book to be honest, because that's what I couldn't find when I was going through those things. And while it's lovely to see how happy people are and how easy life is for everyone but you, it's not reality, is it? We all know that whatever you go through in life, at some point, things are going to be a little bit rubbish. And sometimes are a bit more rubbish than you ever imagined, and sometimes are less rubbish. But you can't pretend that you go through life going, oh, look, butterflies and flowers everywhere. It doesn't, it's not real, is it? So I wanted for my book to reflect the fact that life is not always easy, but it can also be beautiful and it's still very much worth experiencing everything. And that's why there is quite a lot of honesty in there. And probably that's why it took me so long to write it, because I had to find different coffee shops every day, but also but because obviously it takes a lot of me as well, and the second book is also taking a bit longer than expected because there are a lot of different emotional things, and I'm thinking, gosh, this has become really depressing.
It
comes
must
out
almost be like cathartic and therapeutic for you to go through some of these things. And I think that's how sometimes we kind of learn best as well, when we look back on something with maybe a different lens or slightly different knowledge. Or it must be so lovely for you in your community to have people come up and they've essentially read your life story, haven't they? So it must be a really nice sort of family feel in CAD.
I think it is. It's also sometimes strange when I go, once I did that. They go, oh yeah, I know, I read it in the book. So strange.
They know you a little too
my neighbour.
well.
Your neighbour read your book.
Yeah. So lovely. And she said, can you sign? I'm like, oh my God, yeah.
Deb, is this the neighbour that appears in the book?
No, she's.
Okay.
I didn't see her because we moved from there. It's a new neighbor. She's going to be in the last book because she came in after that. Oh, such a great neighbor. But that shows as well. One of the things that is mentioned is how you need your little village as such. And back then I had Lindsay. Was the neighbor mentioned in the book, and she was great. And especially when I went into labor and I was at the hospital, Pixel was with her, and to know Pixel was our first dog, and he was very much our child. He was, for all intents and purposes, it was our baby boy. And so when I was at the hospital, knowing that he was at her house, he knew her house, he knew her family, her dog, who was a San Bernard, so very different size, with Pixel being a pug and he was a San Bernard. But they got on like so well. They was such good friends. And she also had a cat, but again, he had visited her house very often, and there were photos of them like in the same room, perfectly fine, asleep, like completely happy. I didn't have that worry. And when you're going through atrocious amount of pain in labor, delivering, life, you're a little bit busy worrying about that. Imagine having to worry also about your other child, effectively, that to you and to me and to Gary, we knew how important Pixel was, but not everyone else would have gotten that. Not everyone else would have gone, yeah, we know you love your dog, but come on, you're about to have a baby. To us, it wasn't like that. To us, we love Pixel just as much as this baby that is coming, just a different delivery. Just different. That's why some needs are a bit. But to us, the love was the same. It's very difficult for other people to get that. And the fact that he was so happy with our neighbor, with Lindsay, and she looked after him fantastically well and everything, I didn't have to worry. So that was in there, fine. And I could worry about this other massive thing happening. So it was, having people around is so extremely important.
It always kind of, I guess it will come as no surprise to anyone listening to our podcast anyway that you're going to be the expert here in terms of having children. But it always blows my mind that that some people have a real problem with, like, when you say there about you know, it's the same love for Pixel as it was for Molly. Some people have a real problem with that, and I don't really know where that comes from so much. I guess I'm not the best placed person to talk about it, but I have heard pushback on people. You know, I know you in the book you refer to Pixel as like your other baby. You know, which I've got no problem with that at all. I love it. I love that you openly speak like that. But I can imagine some people might have a bit of pushback on that. Maybe.
You won't believe how many, even, you know, people that would have called friends and family would make fun of us, you know, because Pixel was our child. And and our dogs now are our older children, so it's not. And the cat is also is a bit of the bully child. And no, it's just. I think it's the idea. Oh, don't treat the dogs like humans. Dogs are animals, not humans. I think it comes from that at the end of the day. But I don't know. To me, and I think to you guys as well. We adopted this dog. So let's talk about Pixel because he was the first and the main character in the book. We researched the breeder. Apart from the love that we had for dogs, right? Apart from all that, we researched the breeder, make sure that the breeder was proper. We went to have a look. And it's written in the book as well. Not an easy journey because she's like a bit of a remote part of French Switzerland. So, oh my gosh! But we did our homework as such. We met mom and dad. We met him and his siblings. We saw him and got videos of him or photos rather when he was growing up, before or between times we visit. So we have taken the time to also kind of understand pugs and, read about him and stuff. And when he came into our life, we were ready to give him the right kind of food, the right kind of water, provided comfort and outings and toilet training, all that stuff. And isn't that kind of the same thing that we do with children? Because it is. It's just made different. I'm not going to give a baby food from a bowl, but although some babies go and try, like Molly did try a couple of times to get some bits from his food. But it's the same concept. It's just logistically different, but makes no difference on a managing level and on a caring level, because we loved him so much, and I love my daughter so much. I don't see that difference, to be honest. And it does upset me when people say, "Oh, you treat your dog like a child." How else should I treat him? He's my child. I am his mother.
Yeah. It just reminded me. It just reminded me of a part in the book, actually, that I forgot to put in my notes, but you literally reminded me of it here. Am I right in saying that, I could have this wrong, so apologies if not, but in Switzerland, they don't let you adopt a dog until they're 12 weeks old? Is that right?
Yes. That's different. Now, mind you, I don't know at the moment now, in 2024, but back then, yes, it was 12 weeks. I think it's still the same, though. Still the same.
What was the reasoning for that? Do you know?
So the reason is so they stay longer with mum, and they learn not to bite, or puppy biting first, and then the breeder can help a bit more further with toilet training as well. You still need to carry on and stuff, but that's the logic behind it, that they stay with mum a bit longer. And I think if you have the right breeder, that is not a bad idea. But
yeah, I think you're right. Yeah. I couldn't agree more. I wonder if that affects the amount of not so good breeders that there are in Switzerland, having to hold on to a puppy for 12 weeks.
Yeah, I know that.
I mean, 12 weeks is a long time.
Exactly. I think it does make a breeder think twice. Also, mind you, though, we are talking about a much smaller country than the UK. So I think it is easier to manage a smaller country. That is a bit of the reality there as well. But in Switzerland, when you want to have a dog as well, you need to pay. You pay a tax a year. It's not that much. Back then, it was the equivalent of about £40 a year here. So it's not, it's not crazy money. But you need to have it. Back then, the microchip was already a thing that it only became compulsory in England a few years ago, but in Switzerland was already then. Whereas training is not compulsory there, but and the training, as I mentioned, the book wasn't that great, the professionals there, and it is my understanding that in some part of Switzerland is still a bit doubtful, let's just say that, the kind of training that you can get, and it's still not quite a thing as in dog training, at least in the Italian part of Switzerland. Then Italy is also different from the Italian part of Switzerland, it's a different thing there. But yeah, I think maybe it's easier to manage when you live in a smaller country, and definitely the 12 weeks would put quite a few breeders off, because you need to effectively invest more money in the dog, more time, but dodgy breeders will only care about the money they are losing one day. So an extra 4 weeks with the pup, and they take care of all the vaccinations as well, so that would be more money that they're spending towards the puppy. I would say it would discourage dodgy breeders as such.
That's really interesting. That is really interesting. You hear these things, see, because we have debates about this, about what's the best time to adopt a puppy, and then you hear other countries that have been doing this for X amount of years. It's just interesting to hear sort of what sort of effects. There's a wonderful little passage about how you came up with Pixel's name. I absolutely adored that bit in the book. The fact that if a pixel is missing out of a picture, you haven't got the whole picture. So with that pixel added into the picture, the whole picture of your family. I love that. That was so
lovely.
Cool.
Thank you.
Really nice.
Really nice. I
do.
True, and I think, again, this is what's really wonderful about this book. There's all these little bits throughout that are really heartfelt, anecdotal stories of your actual life, and I think that really helps in an educational way as much as it's a good story as well. Your life's a good story, Debbie.
Oh, thank you.
I have to. There is one section of the book though that I do take issue with, and that is page 22. Now, Corinne, you've got the book in front of you. I was going to read it out, so you're going to have to read this out.
What's he going to say?
Page 22. It's a pink section. It's the paragraph at the bottom of page 22. Corinne, if you could please read it out, because I'm going to take issue with a part of this paragraph.
Oh, okay. Tell me.
From where, Steve? The second or the very last?
It's nearly the very bottom bit.
There's some derogatory comment about bearded men.
Oh, the Newfoundland being calmer.
Oh,
yes.
Oh, yes.
I should have said, with the exception of.
Brackets, not peach.
Yeah.
I'm going to edit
Perhaps a
the book
calmer
just...
breed.
If we could edit,
best suited.
if we could edit
Greyhound
that,
or
please.
Did you spit your tea out when you were reading that bit, Steve-O?
I'm like triggered by all of those now. I'm like, why did I get the only batshit crazy Newfoundland in the entire world? Like,
It was, to be fair, is obviously a generalized thing, because even greyhounds, you get the super calm one and then you get the nuts one. But in my personal experience, the Newfoundland that I came across, I've always been quite chilled, I'm enormously cute and calm. And then there are videos of you and Paige, and I'm like, what kind of Newfoundland have you got?
I blame COVID. You got her during COVID, so the whole world went mental then, didn't it? So
I think you're probably right.
Including Newfoundland.
It's funny though, isn't it? It's like when you get a new car, you suddenly see that car everywhere. I'm suddenly reading things about Newfoundlands, like every left, right, and turn I see. It's like you probably wouldn't. It just wouldn't occur to me before to even think about it twice. But it did make me laugh when I read that. So. A couple of sections that I've made notes about here about the book that I think are worth a little bit of investigation. So there's a really good section I've never seen anywhere else in the book about adoption.
Yeah.
So adoption of children, and I was unaware that, I know Nat, sometimes you do assessments, don't you, for adoption and stuff? Actually.
I do, yeah.
So
I do.
you'd be some good insight into this, but social work practitioners being the ones that assess the dog a lot of the time. Is that that blew my mind a little bit. I don't know if we can talk a little bit about that.
Yeah. I'm sure it'd be lovely to hear as well from Nat, because obviously you do it too. But generally speaking, that's who does the assessment of the dog. So while they're, I'm sure, lovely people, you know, and it can't be an easy job in general to do, to be fair, hats off to them. But often they might like dog or they might not like dog, and they come into this house and they see a dog and they go, oh, that's a cute little thing, and off you go, assessed as good to go. Or they come in and maybe they have reservation themselves about dogs and they are not quite sure. They go, I'm not sure about dogs. Let's fail them because I don't like dogs. Instead of maybe going, you know what, I don't know enough about dogs, and let's pass it on to people who do, and people like Nat, myself, and Korea. So you can then, you can then assess the dog professionally and do the right things. And then what I generally do, probably Nat is the same. I make contact with the family first. We have a chat on the phone, and then I go in and see them, see the house, and, check various things, and then write a report about it. And the report goes to both the family and the social service that has made contact. Normally is in fact the social service that make contact me and go, would you be available? If so, then you get in contact with the family, or the family calls you. But they are the ones that call us professionals. So I think it really depends on who happens to having to see that family or having to assess that family, and how honest they are with themselves in a way, and go, can I do this? Can I honestly assess a dog, knowing how important, what an important part of the equation the dog is. And then you find the ones that go, no, better call someone that is professional, and other ones that go, oh, I'll deal with it, I'll do it. So yeah, but it's the law doesn't say that we have to. That professional has to.
Really?
There is no such a thing yet. Maybe in the future, who knows? But yeah.
Yeah, certainly the experiences I've had is that each local authority or adoption agency tends to have different kind of policies. Mm-hmm. So there's kind of a blanket standard, which is as general as dogs could be dangerous to children. But in the same way that faulty wiring or, I don't know, a dodgy sliding door could be. So I love doing adoption assessments. Often I go in before the couple have even been matched with a child. So you don't necessarily get to see the dog interacting with the children they will hopefully live with. So you are kind of really making a bit of a professional guess, an estimate on whether you think there's any risk. So I don't know about you, Debbie, but I always find my reports are full of disclaimers everywhere. Like, it depends. Yeah.
And the thing that I always say, like, we don't know the age as well of the children. Because they give you like, oh, they might have a baby from newborn to 2. And that's a massive difference.
Yeah.
Or between 5 to 9 years old, again, massive difference in development and everything. And you don't even know, we wouldn't know the gender, for example, of the child. You wouldn't know the previous history, why there is this adoption. You literally have to do almost an uneducated guess, in a way, because you can put all your professionalism in there, but you're really missing a big part of this. And so you keep saying in the report, not knowing the age, we did this, and this. It's so tricky.
Because it's your name on it, right? If something happens, I don't know whether you probably would never find out unless you saw something awful in the news, but you wouldn't really want to be like, oh, dear. So I can imagine. I can only imagine.
Yeah, you're kind of going in to say, look, these people are lovely and sensible with their dogs, and their dogs have had experience of being around some children. Mm-hmm. I always put recommendations in mine as well, but I think you're right. I think the anomaly is, like, there doesn't seem to be a blanket one approach for everybody, because I've been called in sometimes because the social worker they've been allocated isn't very dog savvy, and so they have been concerned wrongly I've also been where the social worker has watched one too many TV programs, maybe, and has given very poor advice to them. So I see, not only am I trying to, help families, build themselves up and not just have dog members of their family, but human members as well, if it all goes successfully. I always push back as well and say, look, I know this was trying to be helpful, but having a list of breeds that are red flags that then mean you have an assessment versus not just doing all dogs. Yeah. I would like to see it go that way, because you're then, you're preventing, hopefully, any issues in the future. Yeah. But I've met some lovely people doing adoption assessments. I love it.
I think it's a lot about the parents, isn't it? As you say, if you're sitting across a family that really wants to do all the right things in a way, and they'll be responsible. They'll listen to you as you're talking to them. That really helps to kind of make what is, after all, a judgment in a way of what what it could be like in the future. So they're key as well. But yeah, there is still so much that is left to faith and hope. Effectively. Yeah.
It brings it back to what you were saying earlier as well about Pixel, because I've certainly met couples doing assessments like that where they've been very honest and they've said, look, if you, this isn't any pressure, Nat, but if you fail our dogs, we're going to stop the adoption process because we can't bring ourselves to even consider rehoming them. And so that's the, strength of bond there. And they're like, we want this to be a good thing for all of us as a family, not something that we do at any cost, which is just, big tick in my book.
Absolutely, yeah. And it's a big responsibility as well, because whether you're failing or not, but when you're failing a family effectively, you just know that this family is not gonna go on with the adoption, which is a massive, massive thing, and potentially you're not giving a home to a child. It really takes quite a lot.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, you need to do the right thing as well, because if you're getting a child into a home and then something happens, gosh, that's...
completely. I mean, luckily the dogs have been soft and lovely as anything, and the grown-ups have been so responsible, and it's all worked out fine. But that's the strength of feeling out there, with most families, and how their dog fits into that little puzzle of who we all live with and cohabit with, share our lives with.
Isn't it weird though that I mean, even there, we're talking about this, and maybe it's not the best framework for doing this, and hopefully it will get better like in the future. But for everyone else that's just having a baby and already has an existing dog, you don't get any of these checks or tick. I mean, this is why a book like this is so important. But you don't get anything. Essentially,
don't let me get on my soapbox about adopting, okay?
So, I mean, when Molly turned up, and this is why this book is so valuable for people, and hopefully it gets into the hands of people, before they're maybe even thinking about having a baby, or or vice versa, or already got a baby and getting a dog. It works both ways. This book does, I think, really well. But you don't get any of that, do you? You're just thrust into that world, and it's kind of, you talk about a lot of faith in the adoption process. There's a lot of faith in let's just hope this works out all right. Yeah, just
winging
parenting
it
in general. Yeah.
I'm not being funny, but when I was pregnant with Molly, we literally had to try how to put nappies on a doll, because I never had to put a nappy on anyone. None of my friends with babies ever trusted me. Do you want to change? No, I'm all right. I'm busy.
Hang on a minute. Are you telling me that Gary didn't put his hand up?
Well, Gary changed so many nappies, you won't believe. He was very, very good nappy changer, thank God. And I was like, oh, it really smells. I think it's your turn, Gary. Oh, I'm a bit sore still, like 7 months in. I'm a bit sore.
I like Gary.
No, he's
Does Gary listen to the podcast, Debbie?
No, he's obsessed. But I will tell him, oh, maybe you want to listen to this one.
Yeah, hi Gary. I'll have a cup of tea, please.
He didn't read the book. He didn't read the book. I'm like, okay, do you want to read the book so you can edit it for me? No, I'm not doing that. Okay, maybe it's the responsibility, you know, it's a big thing asking someone to edit it. Okay. Published and everything, did the cover and everything. Have you read the book? No. I've lived it, he said to me. What do you mean
That's
you lived
fair
it?
enough,
I know you lived it, but read it, you know. Oh my
He
God.
knows he's in it, right?
Yeah, he does.
He's quite a main
That's why he
character.
doesn't want to read it.
Oh, that's hilarious.
Oh,
So little Molly turns up in your world, and I don't want to go too much into too many things, but obviously the book takes a big turn there in terms of you getting to grips with being a mum and Gary getting to grips with being a dad. I love the bit that you talk about that you need a village in order to take care. You need a village to take care of anyone, really, don't you?
Yeah.
It's kind of something that I think is missing out of a lot of Western society. This idea of having this. Well, maybe I don't know. Maybe I'm speaking out of turn there, because I'm sure lots of people have lots of help in terms of having baby. But you moved to a different country, so you didn't have your parents on hand to help.
Yeah. Mind you, my mum, bless her, she's in the book. She came to stay when I was towards the end of the pregnancy. She came to stay, and then Molly was born, and my mum stayed on for another couple of weeks.
Yeah.
And it was, you know, oh my God, it was great because my mum was cooking all the time, and it was. Having Molly was quite a shock to the system. Everyone tells you how difficult it would be, you know, they say, oh, it's all worth it. And yeah, of course it is, gosh, but it's so hard. It was so hard. That was actually like this kid kept crying all the time. And, oh my goodness. And then obviously I was reading not to give babies any dummies because it's bad for them. I'm like, Mom, let's go and buy a freaking dummies because I can't endure this anymore. So we bought a dummy and Molly kept refusing it. She didn't want it. Oh, come on. So, and she always wanted me. Obviously I was also I was basically like a restaurant on wheels because I was feeding her myself. I was breastfeeding as well, which has always been a big thing for me. I know I come from as you know, I come from Switzerland and especially the Italian part. So there is a lot of that Italian culture of feeding yourself if you can. Also, I'm not being funny, but it's always available. It's always there. Don't have to queue up for the shops to get it. Don't have to park. Well, you have to park somewhere. Don't do it as you drive. But you know what I mean? You don't have to worry about anything of that kind. And it's free. It's free there. But again, it's something else that is required from mom. And I was tired because I wasn't sleeping. I was worrying about this new creature, and I was also feeding her, but sometimes I didn't have enough. So it was all quite exhausting. And then there was that sense of guilt because I wasn't spending as much time with Pixel as I used to. Mm-hmm. Whilst, Gary instead was spending more time with him because the baby was always with me. Well, a lot of the time she was with me because, bless him, he couldn't breastfeed. But that's the one thing he couldn't do.
Yeah.
So he couldn't obviously do that natural massive things for babies. So he was spending so much more time with Pixel, and I was a bit jealous, I must say, because I missed them. I miss Pixel. Okay. I miss Pixel so much, and very often Pixel would sleep with us. Like I would feed her on the sofa or something, and he would just kind of curl up next to us, and that was lovely. But he used to sit on my neck. Pixel used to climb on me and sit on my neck. But then with the baby, I couldn't do that anymore because the climbing would have been, dangerous for the baby. And also, I'm feeding the baby and got a dog on my back. Yeah, great. It's so good right now.
I should have been the front cover of the book.
I was just about to say that. I was like, did that come up as an option for the front cover?
Maybe I'll lose it next time. Bits.
It's a really interesting point, how much you bring up how you were feeling during that time as well. And imagine if you weren't you clearly, even though it wasn't your profession at that point, you were clearly really dog savvy. And if somebody has just had a child and then perhaps there is an issue with the dog and that sort of new cohabiting setup, and then you call in a professional, how they deal with that should be probably slightly different than somebody that is getting their sleep, isn't feeding a baby in the middle of the night and all of that. Because if we go in and go, well, you need to do this, this and this, and it'd be like, more things to do. I can't possibly. Like, you need to go in and make their life easier, don't you?
Yeah.
And I'm guessing that's what your CAD professionals are pretty expert at.
Yeah, and in fact, every Kids Around Dogs approved professional has access to our courses and stuff. And there is one that is particularly dedicated to the family dog, so the dog that lives in a family with kids. So again, from pregnancy or pre-pregnancy even to the age when children are teenagers, which is again another planet entirely, and is actually going to be the third book, that one. Just so you know. It's a different, and I'm going through myself now with Molly's 13 now, so it's a whole new world. So when a professional does the course, there is a big chunk of that is how to help, or massive chunk is how to help family, considering that you don't have the liberty of going, oh, that's all right, I'm just gonna leave the baby there for 6 hours and do whatever I want, or I'm gonna go and take off, I'm gonna go to puppy classes, I'm gonna do agility, I'm gonna do hoppers, I'm gonna do this and that, because again, you literally cannot do those things. And also you need to consider that not all deliveries are easy. Mine was 20 something hours labor, and gosh, they wrote in the book as well, they call it labor for a reason. It's massive effort mentally for the body and everything. But I had a natural birth, and it was quite, relatively easy, some stitches and that. But then I kept thinking, oh my God, they left something inside. Psychologically, I thought they left something inside. I had to come back to the hospital a couple of days later, or a week later or something, to check, because I kept thinking they'd forgotten something inside. There was nothing else. Everything was out. But it was such a big thing that, my God, and mine, again, relatively easy, healthy and everything. But there are many women that don't have that kind of luxury. They might have an early pregnancy, so the baby got delivered early and maybe has to stay in the hospital longer while mom goes home, and that emotionally takes massive toll, can in fact trigger even more postnatal depression, which again is a very big thing. It can affect in different ways. It can even make you hallucinate, you forget things. It's massive post baby pregnancy. Oh, post pregnancy depression, my God.
Yeah. Postnatal.
Yes.
It's a massive thing. And then, of course, you have C-section. And a C-section, I don't know what he wants to talk about, but if your body gets cut open, people, they get cut open and get the baby out. Stevie's in shock now, but he's like, what are we talking about? It's a massive thing. It's effectively a big operation.
I'm a sunroof baby.
There you go.
I'm a sunroof baby, yeah. I came out.
Yeah, my mom had both my brother and I in C-section, so she still has the scar to stay.
Yeah, she tells me about it all the time.
Yeah, oh yeah. Of course.
Your choice, Mum. Sorry, your choice. Make better life choices.
It's not like I went, I want to be cut out.
Exactly. I had no say in it.
Just I was there, but I wasn't doing it. Yeah, so, it's a massive thing that a woman go through. And but yet you're just expected to just get on with it. Off you go. I was rolled out in the wheelchair up to my room, and then 3 days later, I got sent home. I wanted to go home so bad, though, so bad. I literally went, I feel like staying here is really bad for my mental health. Okay, you can go. Bye. I wanted to go. I didn't want to be in hospital any longer. But being home was fantastic, and the comfort of your own bed with your family and that. but again, it's you are expected effectively to move on really quickly with your life, with this baby. There's a human that your body has created, and good luck with that one. See you every now and then.
I think
Yeah.
I think it's a different mindset. So for those trainers kind of listening, and I guess they'll find out loads more about this and these concepts if they look up CAD, and we'll do a big plug and everything so they can find you if they want to find out more and they're like find their calling almost. But like Corinne said, I'm always really I'm even more on it with not giving my clients more to do when they've got children, because I think anyone with a human child, that's kind of got to come first, and everything is secondary. Not the amount of love or even the amount of time sometimes, but you do end up multitasking a lot more, which I think is then, that's why once you understand that, and you can be more empathetic about why people might be struggling with loose lead walking because they've also got to have the pram, or why the school run with your dog is not the best walk for your dog, but I can see why you're doing it, because you've only got 20 minutes and you've got to try and do everything in that 20 minutes whilst also doing your online shop that gets delivered later that you can unpack, and also this, that and the other and everything else that you've got going on in your head. So I just hats off to everyone who's trying to raise canine and human children. I've taken myself out of that community, but I very much respect it from the outside.
But the fact that you can see that, the fact that you're thinking, you're putting yourself in their shoes, even if, your shoes are different pair of boots, if you like. It doesn't matter. It's the fact that you can feel that empathy and going, oh my gosh, right? Imagine if to your life you are adding, and the books in this case is particularly for up to preschool, but whatever it is, even if you're a preschool, a lot of people, especially nowadays, both parents have jobs, right? Because living with only one salary is just no longer feasible. It's you have to be extremely lucky to do that. So both parents are working, but obviously one of the parents is likely to maybe work part-time or have more of a flexible job, but you still have it, you're still having to think about it and go and do it and whatever. Then, as Nat said, you still having
not have sick on your shoulder.
Yeah, exactly. You haven't washed your hair in a week, but never mind. Then you have to keep house, don't you? You need to still make your dinners and wash the beds and clean the floors and everything. And with the dog, it's more added to it, isn't it? Because even if you have the dog that doesn't shed or anything, they still bring so much rubbish from the garden and everything. So it's that. And then you have the child, whatever age the child is. If it's a baby, needs certain things that they might not need later, but later they need other things they didn't need before. And when you have a toddler and they start walking, and it's a whole party there, because oh my gosh, like everything has to be off limits, and literally every item you owned moves up. Like you put everything on top of shelves because they can't touch anything, but they want to reach out for everything, and so it's another thing, another worry. And imagine having to deal mentally with everything, physically with all that, and then there is a problem with the dog, so you're calling a professional and they go, oh, and now you need an extra 6 hours a week to do this, and they give you a bunch of stuff to do, and you go, yeah, that's not going to happen, is it? It's not going to happen. So you need to be realistic, and that's why as well, I found the CAD because I wanted something that families with children could really do, could be realistically doing, but also to not forget the children. I think I said it somewhere before, the children might be little, but they're not stupid, so you can give them quite a lot to do. You can give them quite a lot of responsibilities, little jobs they can help you with. Obviously not a baby, but even when they're older. When Molly was 2, she used to help me to just put some fresh water for the dogs and for the dog one. And yes, there was water everywhere, like splashing bonanza. But she had a little Peppa Pig stool to stand up on things, or I would help her up, it depends where we were, and she would put the bowl in the sink and go with it, and there was water everywhere, but she had prepared the water for the dog. And it's a little thing, and maybe it doesn't help in time as such, but it's helping to create habits for later, because then your child is thinking, right, I'm preparing the water for the dog, and you do it at least twice a day, and that kid will grow up to know that twice a day you're changing the water for the dog. Later, yes, the novelty changes a bit, and you hit a wall with your kids, so you ask them to do something, and the answer is, forget it, bro. But they still know it. The back of their mind, they're never going to forget that. And that's what matters. And helping with training, some easy training, some things that they can do at their height and physical ability. There is really a lot kids can help us with. And I think this is also often not kind of maybe spoken about enough, or even dared enough, because they go, oh no, the kids cannot do anything. No, actually, they can do better than some adults.
Yeah. I always used to say that actually some of the best trainers that I ever had in puppy class were some of the kids that came along. And I wanted to just curve back a little bit, because there's a couple of things. I've been writing notes furiously as we've been going along here, and I know I've only got. Are you okay to hang on for a little bit extra than an hour, Debbie? Have you got anywhere you need to fly back?
Gary's doing this will pick up as well. Again, making him look like the best husband, but no.
Just bring him down to earth a little bit.
Yeah,
don't want that head getting too big.
So throughout the book, the one thing that comes, and Nat kind of alluded to this a bit earlier on, the one thing that becomes apparent is that you and Gary had really good instincts, I think, with when it came to Pixel. I know you did your research and all of that sort of stuff, but and also those instincts kind of fly along as well as Molly comes crashing into your life. I love there's a brilliant section about you talked about with your mum, and then I think Gary's parents came to visit you as well when you just had Molly. And suddenly you were sort of finding out that they were kind of in juxtaposition with how you wanted Molly and Pixel's relationship to start developing, and it's that whole family knows best kind of thing. It's the worst, isn't it? Trying to coach families to do stuff is the absolute worst. Absolute worst.
Other people's families, I'm fine with.
Yeah, but your own family, forget it. It's absolutely no chance. But the other thing that I wanted to talk about that I think the book does really well is you talk about, so there you went off there talking really, really well and empathetically about what it's like for being a mother and having a child and a dog. You also talk really empathetically about what it's like being a dog living with a family and a child. And you also, and this is where I think this book is a real treasure, is you talk really empathetically about what it's like being a child living with a dog and a family. And there's some lovely parts of the book where you talk about how a child processes information and why you might and how what you might think is a bit frustrating about how maybe your child is learning is actually just due to how their brain is working at a specific time. And having those three things going on in a book all at the same time, number one, but also all written throughout the story, I think it's a real wonderful thing. There's a great bit in the book where you talk about Molly learning that raisins aren't good for dogs, and then you had this idea that she might go to school and disseminate all this information to all of her school friends. So actually, did you know that raisins aren't good for dogs? It's those little parts of the book that I think are really, really nice.
And the thing is that what surprised me as well, raising Molly and then observing as well a little, human friend, is that they often come up with things. They will, like Molly, she knew because obviously I told them, raisins are not good for dogs. But then when in preparing the lunchbox, she said, oh, I don't want the raisins in the lunchbox because they're bad for dogs, and there was, the dogs around that. But I didn't tell her we're not going to put the raisins in the lunchbox. It wasn't coming from me. She came up with that. She told me. And so that means that somewhere the things that you parents tell your kids do get in. So, the things I was telling her were being processed, and maybe in her own time as well. And when the opportunity came, she went, no raisins, because they're not good for dogs. Oh, wow, yeah, that's fantastic. Oh my God, my child. And many of those things is what, is what I see in my own kid, but also in the children that, that we work with, on how you tell them one thing and they might need their time to process it, but they are listening, or they are seeing what you're doing, and then will mimic it. And you'll see your own action mirrored in what the child is doing. You go, oh, I just did that. So they were watching. It's quite beautiful to see. And, I love working with kids like that.
One of the funniest times things like that happen is if you're talking to a family, perhaps you're talking about what they could do instead of shouting no, and then you're breaking all of that down, showing them what to do, and then the kids in the background going, Daddy, you shout no.
yeah.
all the time, and they're like,
them up.
Thanks, grassing them up. Yeah, exactly.
Or you ask them to do something to practice for that week, and then they come back. So how was it? And the kid goes, they didn't do nothing.
Little kids are such amazing observational learners as well. Like one of my nieces, she is an absolute gannet. You think she's going to share food with you, but she's just showing you, it's mine. But I took Mouse round there once, and I was like, River was in her high chair. I say eating lunch. It looked like a bomb had gone off and pasta was everywhere. So Mouse was in her element, and I thought, well, I'll keep her over here with some little bits of biscuit, just so that she's not jumping up and scaring River. But then River watched me feeding Mouse some little bits of food and just started dropping her lunch on the floor. And I was like, oh look, she's feeding Mouse, that's so cute. And Mouse obviously loved it as well. But then I had to take the dog out because I was like, River, you're not going to eat any of your lunch because you're feeding it all to the dog. So, but just little things that we do, your small humans are always watching as well. So that kindness, they'll pay it forward as well. It doesn't always mean that you're teaching them the things you want them to do, because we want them to eat their own lunch. But it was very, very sweet.
Aww. And to be fair, she was teaching Mouse that the food was going to be on the floor and didn't have to jump up. Win-win there.
That's Mouse's perfect day, a sunny day in the garden.
Completely. A toddler in a high chair whilst it's sunny. Done. Absolute favourite day ever.
There's also bits in the book that are almost like serendipitous little accidents that occur, but actually provide a really good teaching moment. So the one that springs immediately to mind is Molly's first steps. I know you weren't there.
No, wasn't
sorry,
there.
don't want to bring up any triggering moments.
Yes, Steve.
But the fact
that was one of the crying in Costa.
How did you know it was Costa? Oh my God!
But the fact that you might need to fill in the gaps here, Debbie. But you had a friend who had a son, Max. Was it Max? Was
Max?
The son?
Yeah.
And
he was
so Pixel was seeing Max, who was already walking. So because Pixel had already been around a toddler getting up and being unstable, when it came round to Molly's first steps, he took all of that kind of in his stride a little bit. And I think, it really speaks to the power of like setting up and prepping and preparing. And then when it goes into the pink section of that particular section of the book, you talk about that as well. Again, it's another really, really nice way through the story. And then looking at I really like the fact that you don't shy away from the training in this book as well. There's training in here, and and there's really practical training, the sort of training you're going to want to be doing, to prepare a child or a dog, in fairness, for living together. So, okay, as our listeners can tell, we really enjoyed the book. We really, really loved it.
Thank you.
There is so. I tread carefully here on this next section because it's the part of the book that would have had me leave a coffee shop and not return to it for a couple of months. So unfortunately, there's a sad part where obviously you lose Pixel. we won't dwell too much on that part of it because we'll all be in tears on here, I'm sure. But the bit afterwards, so the pink section of the book after that, I think is, Corin actually used the word like brave early on. I think it's probably the bravest part of the book for me, because you talk very openly and passionately about how showing your emotions you thought were a really good thing, even though you were getting maybe some advice from different areas saying not to show your emotions around that time. And I just really love that. It really struck a chord with me. Again, it's brave, very brave to write about those things. It's so brave. It's cathartic as well, I think, sometimes to write these things out. But was that a conscious decision to be that bare in the book about the emotions of that sort of time?
Yes, and I tell you what as well, because and again, because I'm very open, I should say I have kind of used, if you like, that kind of way of thinking, of being open with Molly throughout her whole life. We both have, again, and I. We have always believed that, you know, she can say no to things, and no means no, and how you feel, you can tell us how you feel, you can show emotion. And it's normal for mom and dad to also have emotions. I've suffered from anxieties. Molly knows this. In fact, during the pandemic, there was a particularly big time where Molly helped me get over a panic attack, and she was only 9 at the time. So she knows that I am. You see me smiling all the time, but not everything is always easy. Molly knows this. And she also has her things going on. And what I think all this being open with her has brought is that she knows she can be open with us. So when she doesn't feel right, and sometimes you don't even know why you don't feel quite the way you wanted to feel, she knows she can come to us and say, I want to cry, and I cry, and or I feel this, or I feel that. And I believe that because we were all honest with her, because we were open with her, and we still are, she can do the same with us. And I think that's really, really important. Pretending to be someone else, or pretending not to have certain feelings, will just build them up and, eventually turn them into something much worse. So I'm happy in a bit of a weird way that I could be, that we did take that approach, that we were honest with her, that we did cry with her or in front of her, and tell her why. I don't cry because today it's raining instead of not. Do you know what I mean? But the reasons for tears, especially in adults, are often more logical than when you're a kid. But still, she knows that she can come to us and go, "I'm crying because," or "I cry because I don't even know why, but I'm crying," and that's fine. So I think that for the good and the bad as it is, and my parents would always say, "Oh, why you shouldn't cry in front of your daughter, you shouldn't tell her about your anxiety and stuff." But this is who I am. I'm her mom, and if I can't be honest, if I hide myself, maybe that's what she's gonna learn to do, to hide herself from others. That's not nice. Or at least she knows that with us she can be completely honest and open. And I think that this has turned out to be this way. Yeah. So it's not an easy chapter for anyone to read, and I know I can imagine in every coastal pool now I'm banned. You go packet of tissue.
I was going to say they just drop a napkin and maybe a biscuit or piece of chocolate cake to cheer you up a little bit.
Today then. Oh God.
I think you're right about what you say in the book about it's just from a different era, people because my parents are the same. My dad, he doesn't listen to the podcast, but my mum does, so she'll be like, "Yeah," when she hears this. He didn't get involved in any nappy changing at all.
Yeah, well, yeah.
He squirreled away from that. He made up something like he's squeamish or it makes him feel sick or I don't know, whatever it was. But I suspect that was just an excuse to get out of it. I'll be honest.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure your mum was doing it because she absolutely loved changing
Exactly.
nappies, not because it's just something that has to be done.
Oh, little Stevie's done another poop. Such a good boy.
Yay! Yay! You shat yourself again. Oh, so lucky.
Anyway, that's enough of that. But yeah. they definitely. I sympathise with what you said, because they're definitely from maybe more of a generation of not show your emotions. And actually, there's been times when they've struggled to show emotions when it's even appropriate to show emotions. And I think that's just a kind of, they're a product of their time to a little bit. And so I'm really happy. I mean, I think I'm older than everyone on the call here today, but I'm really happy to see that this stuff is turning around and changing about, and people are very brave in terms of talking about these sorts of things, because it is important. It is important. Everything you said there is very important.
And hopefully it leads to a lot less money going to therapists and counsellors in the next generation, because it's, if we could all be more open with our emotions and be able to talk about it with family, then that should be a first step, really.
I see as well, like with a lot of neurodivergent parents, for example, sometimes like we feel so alone, and once your child is diagnosed as well, you think, oh my gosh, everyone's going to judge me because things are not like the others, for example. And it's really hard to think, have I done something, have I could have done something different, I don't know. It's just your mind just goes into very dark places sometimes. And knowing, and I see it more and more now, that more neurodivergent parents are out there going, you know what, you're not alone. And no matter how old your child is, you're not alone. It's all right, there is a lot of there that can help you and support you. Is so important. And I think that is actually in whatever you think of social media, that part of social media where people are open about certain things, it's actually one of the positive things of those channels. Not everything is positive on social media, as we well know, but some things are, so might as well take advantage of what's good, isn't it? So that sharing, that openness, it's crucial. I really think that, as Nat said, we wouldn't need to see so many therapists or life coaches or whatever, that have a very important role in life. So I'm not, thank God we have them.
Oh my goodness, yes. Yeah.
But maybe we didn't need them as much if we could be more open with our peers and our families and that. Yeah.
Anyway, if all the therapists and that find themselves out of work, then they could either, come and retrain with PACT or CAD, and
Hey, we're all mammals.
Exactly. They should have some pretty good coaching skills, shouldn't they? Let's be honest.
Yeah.
So, thank you so much for joining us today. It has been a long time coming. It's been a really, really nice chat. Hopefully you'll come on and talk to us again. And obviously we'll get to hug in real life at DogX 2024.
I can't wait. Really not long. 3 weeks to go? Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
It's just under 3 weeks now. So by the time this podcast goes out, it will be around about 10 days. So what will people be expecting from you on your stand this year at DogX?
So if you have been there last year, you probably know, or if you've seen any of our stand before, we are the very, very colourful ones. lot of pink going on that Nat loves. And so obviously the book will be there, so you can purchase the book at the conference. And I'll be there with Caroline Wilkinson, who is also a trainer, behaviorist, and chiropro professional. So she will also be happy to answer any question you may have about kids and dogs. But also you'll be able to join us. So if you would like to be a chiropro professional, come and chat to us. And while we are at the PACT conference, we'll give a 10% discount to anyone that joins on the day. So it's all happening.
Yeah.
Absolutely amazing. And
Brilliant.
And you haven't got any pink competition because Carrie's not there this year with her Hoopers stand. So you'll definitely be the pinkest.
I'll be the pinkiest. Carrie is lovely. Carrie is so lovely. Yeah, completely nuts, and I love her.
One of the goodies for our goodie bag is my outpink you.
Oh yeah.
So everyone's going to have a little bit of fluffy pink from our friends at Tug Enough. You wait, the goodie bag this year.
Oh my God. I can't whistle, so I'm just going to go, wow.
So
Yeah, if you just blow, it's not as exciting, is it?
we have a tradition. Oh yeah. Hang on. One final take issue with the book. If you do ever do a reprint or a second copy, you need to stick packed in the recommended education.
Oh yeah, where are we?
Are you not in the? Oh no, I need to sort that out then.
I think you should go through every. I think you should go through every copy and handwrite it in.
Listen, can I do a spoiler for the next book, though, guys?
Go on.
Because the next book is going to be the school year, so kids in school year, so from the age of 5 to 11, which are again a very different age range for children, mental development, and everything. But during that time is also when I became a dog trainer. That's where my lifestyle led me into, properly qualifying and everything. And so in the pink bit, there is going to be a part where I talk about this very, very important topic, very dear to my heart, about, going towards the right school or associations to become, to qualify as a dog trainer. And guys, you're in it.
Yay!
At the time, I didn't know you when I qualified. I don't know, but it was packed around in 2016.
Not with us at the helm.
No, certainly not us now. It might have been Muriel's one, but early days, yeah.
So that's why. But make me sweat.
We're all just staring. Like, I talk why, Debbie?
In the pink bit, when I talk about the school to look out for and what to look out for in general, because obviously not everyone or not everywhere around the world packs might be available. So then you are definitely a clear example of force-free training, but also apart from how you train your lovely members, is also how you are, guys, because you're really nice. You're actually really nice. Yeah.
Oh,
Even
Steve.
Even Jay. Jay's really nice.
He doesn't say anything. He's alright, isn't he? He's alright.
He comes up when there are events and stuff, and I see him. Oh, you're very nice. Oh,
yeah. He is very nice. He's usually being bossed around by me. So yeah, don't talk to him for too long.
Dinner tonight.
Yeah.
So one final question, and this one is going to put you on the spot because we like to put for the final question. So we always ask that our authors that come on recommend a book as they leave. Okay, so it can't be your own book, Debbie. Don't try and do that.
I'm already thinking. Can you imagine?
So,
well.
have you got a dog training or a book about dogs
training,
or animal behaviour or anything like that has shaped your career or something you think that people need on their bookshelves?
So it's very tricky to just choose one book, but I think a book that we talked about earlier, actually, the Sindor book that is in my I think, hold on. I'll just get it. 1 second.
Yeah, grab it.
Now, my old bookshelf is going to fall apart there. There is this book, right? It's Sindor Pangap book. She was also your guest last year, wasn't she?
She was, yeah.
It's one of those books that, a bit like mine in a way, follows a story. So it's not, this is dog training for street dogs. This is what you do, It's not scientifically difficult that you go, oh my God, what am I reading? Falling asleep as you go, feeling incredibly stupid, going, I don't understand half those words. Her book was very open, but at the same time, I felt like I could maybe not relate directly because I didn't experience almost none of the things that she had, but I could feel it. I could feel what she must have felt. And also learned a lot about street dogs, which I'm very interested about. Also because growing up every summer we'd go to Italy on holiday. My parents used to have a house in the south, and at the time there were a lot of street dogs. not anymore, but at the time they were like literally everywhere. So I was very fascinated. I always wanted to take a couple home, you know. Like, oh, I'll take this one. I always said no to that as well, even if, you know, they were free, do you know what I mean? But no. That was a no. So it was very fascinating to read this book and to, you know, to understand a bit more as well about street dogs. So I recommend this book. I think it's a good book. It's got nothing to do with kids. There are no children in there. But really good book for anyone who loves dogs and is interested on them.
I think both you and Sindor write from the heart as well. So yeah. Nice choice.
Yeah.
And we do have an episode with Sindor, don't we?
Yeah.
It's episode 48.
Episode 48, as if she just knew that off the top of her head.
Oh, yeah.
It's not just a pretty face, everyone. She's there with the facts.
She's like the Truello of humans. Tell us everything. Posted everywhere. Can I recommend another book? It's for parents of neurodivergent children, which is also a topic quite obviously personally dear to me. But also we are coming up with a new course on kids around dogs. That is neurodivergent kids around dogs. And this book is effectively for the parents. So it doesn't teach much about dogs or anything, but it opens a little bit. The lady who wrote the book it's called Your Child Is Not Broken. I can't remember her name now, but I can find out.
How old are these children in there? Shall I buy it for my mum for Christmas? Do you think? Is 41 too old?
Maybe, why not? So the name of the author is Heidi Mavir, or Mavir, I'm not sure how to pronounce that. And Your Child Is Not Broken, and is effectively about a point of view from the parents, what it's like to, you know, to raise a child that is neurodivergent, but also she's also the mom is neurodivergent as well, so what it's like for her in her journey. Give some advice as well, but I think mostly on a person, a lot of the things that she wrote in the book have already experienced, I've already gone through, so I haven't learned anything in that respect. But again, it made me think, oh my gosh, I'm not the only one. Oh my, I felt that, oh my God, I went through that experience. So sometimes you just need to know that, you know, you can hold hands with someone and go, yeah, I've been there, you know, and it's quite beautiful. So that's another book that I would recommend.
That's a really nice recommendation. I'm sure some of our listeners will be Googling on that and resonating with it. And like you say, you know, books and learning in general has all different types of outcomes, doesn't it? And mostly it should make you feel good and not alone, which is what we all need to feel.
So where can people find you, Debbie, if they would like to delve more into your life? I mean, obviously they're going to go out right now, buy the book, and they're going to know everything about that part of your life in a couple of weeks, and they're going to be asking you questions all about it. But if they want to know more about you, more about CAD, where can they go?
So please go on kidsarounddogs.co.uk. You can also email me on kidsarounddogs@gmail.com. We are on practically every social media, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, TikTok, not that much. It's there though, but yeah. Even X, although I don't use it quite anymore as much. I think like everyone else. We're there, but are we? And there is also a YouTube channel, CAD Kids Around Dogs. So we're literally like everywhere. Like dog fur, we go everywhere.
Yeah, nice. Really
except coffee shops.
Well, I'm gonna have to branch out. I can't go to pool anymore. But I'm gonna start maybe Bournemouth. I can go Christchurch. I can just branch out a bit.
Yeah. I'll bump into you down the road. I'll be like, "Why are you here crying, Debbie? Oh, you've run out of coffee shops in Dorset. Now you're on the Hampshire borders."
Yeah. I love Hampshire because Jane Austen lived there. So I love it.
It's a lovely county. You're welcome anytime.
Thank you. I think maybe I did shed a few tears in the IKEA one in IKEA. But I think that's normal.
I think the next book needs to have a map of tears shed and words written.
I was I've definitely shed tears in IKEA before. Not because I was alone.
Yes, I
So I
can't
can't find my way out.
Oh my gosh, I'm gonna have to build this.
So
You love IKEA.
I do love IKEA. A flat pack is my idea of fun weekend, quite frankly.
Practically everything in my office is flat pack. Oh my gosh, everything. Apart from the computer, I'm looking around. That's IKEA.
So we're gonna do our traditional fake buy. Can we take a photo on this new Riverside thing? I wasn't sure.
My other thumbnails of you guys don't look particularly high quality.
Yeah, that's because this is going to be really interesting for the listeners. This section.
Sure it is.
But it records as we're doing it live in a lower quality. Then when we process it, it'll all be 1080p.
So should we do a weird thing where we can take a screenshot from the
later?
Higher? Yeah. So
yes.
Should we do that now and just do
Okay.
a 5-second pose?
Everyone smile at the camera for
ready?
5
This
seconds.
isn't weird at all.
This is good for YouTube.
Yeah.
Smile.
Everyone's going to think that their internet's buffering. Like, what are they doing?
We can take a photo of that. We can take a photo of that. Right, we're going to do a
Where
very
else
quick.
am I banned from?
A very quick fake bye, but hang around just for 30 seconds so we can say a real bye. So, bye-bye, listeners and watchers. We'll see you on the other side. Right, let me stop this recording right now, live.